I'd like to introduce Theo Morgan, who's going to talk to us about Bob and Alf Pearson, whom I have to say I'd never heard of, but hopefully we'll learn more by the end of it. And thanks, Theo, for telling us about Bob and Alf Pearson.
Hello, yes, so, well, as both Keith here and Tom apparently didn't know who Bob and Alf Pearson were, I thought it was time to educate them, well, also I hope it's going to be an enjoyable presentation. So I didn't know who they were either, and there's a little trick for any surviving artists out there. If you want to be noticed by me, live to be 100, because I didn't know who Bob and Alf Pearson were until suddenly I heard Alf Pearson was turning 100. And there's not that many centenarians, you know, in the record business who could reach that age, so then that got me interested. So, without further ado, I'm going to be telling you about Bob and Alf Pearson, the musical duo. So, during the heyday of British variety theatre, the wireless and the gramophone, the double-up Bob and Alf Pearson were mainstays of the scene. They first achieved fame in the early 1930s, but they actually became best remembered for their contribution to a classic BBC radio comedy show in the post-war era. They continued performing together into the 1980s, with their act lasting for over 50 years. I'm going to focus on their recording career, obviously, as we are in the CLPGS. From 1929 to 1953, they made over 200 recordings, which were issued on shellac 78s. They never made any 45s, and they never had an LP out. So very much shellac stars. And on many of these records they were uncredited, and we're going to find out why. So, as you may have guessed from their names, they were brothers from Sunderland in the northeast of England. Bob was born in 1907, Alf in 1910. Their father, Alf, was a plasterer, but their mother, Emily Smiles, performing under her maiden name, was a contralto singer with the Moody Manners Opera Company. And she made a couple of records with the boys. One of them was one of their Rex records, one of them was a private record, but other than that I'm not aware there's anything of her surviving. And the duo started as choir boys in Sunderland's Christchurch Choir, in which the principal treble soloist was Bob, and when his voice broke, Alf took on that role. At the North of England Music Festival in 1921, with the composer Ralph Vaughan Williams as adjudicator, Bob was winner of the boys' solo class. In 1924, 3 years later, Alf also won the prize. As soon as the brothers left school, aged 14 of course, as everyone did in those days, they were put to work as apprentices in their father's plastering business. By 1928, they'd begun singing duets together. The first songs they performed as a duo were Bluebird, Sing Me a Song, and I Told Them All About You. Bluebird, Sing Me a Song was recorded by Leighton and Johnston, an African-American duo based in Britain who were favourites of the Pearsons, and Alf later said, "We went as near as we could to them." Leighton and Johnston had been recording since 1924, and they broke up in 1935. I mean, obviously we're talking about Bob and Alf, but Leighton and Johnston sold about 7 million records in the UK, so that was pretty enormous, even bigger than Bob and Alf. Maybe someone will teach us about them one day. But back to Bob and Alf. We're going to start with a clip of Bob and Alf on Desert Island Discs from 1966, talking about their beginnings in show business, speaking to Roy Plomley.
Bob, where were you born?
Well, we were both born in Sunderland.
Do you come from a musical family?
Very musical, yes.
On both sides?
Yes, both sides.
Alf, how early did you start having lessons?
I went in the choir, church choir, when I was 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first grounding.
Was Bob in the choir too?
Yes.
Which one of you was the pianist in the act?
I am.
Bob?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. What did you both want to be when you were at school?
It's something to do with music, always.
Did you have that idea too, Alf?
Yes, always.
What, in fact, did you both do when you left school? Well, when I left, I went into a quantity surveyor's office. Father was in the building trade. He had his own business and he wanted me to have a thorough grounding. But at nights, of course, I still carried on with the music.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Alf?
Well, I went into the office in Father's business.
Yes.
Helping, costing clerk, and that sort of thing.
And you were entertaining in the evenings as well?
No, not really. Not like Bob. Not in a band like Bob, anyway.
Well, he was in a band. I didn't hear about this, Bob.
Oh, just as well, perhaps. It was a real Fatal Five band I was in, but nevertheless it gave me my grounding into the pop side of music. Before that, it had always been classical stuff,
Mm-hmm. When did you start singing duets together in public?
When we left the choir, when our voices broke, see, and when our voices came back again, Bob was a tenor and I was a baritone. And
Yes.
we joined the church amateur concert party and we started singing then.
Mm-hmm.
And more or less the same as what we do now.
Better, I think.
You came to live in the south after a while, didn't you?
Yes, Father got a building contract down near Kingston on Thames, and so the whole family moved down there.
Mm.
And we used to go out at night to parties, things like that, and sing. And one night there was the recording manager of a gramophone company there and heard us singing. He asked us if we would like to make some records, which we did. And then Christopher Stone, who was probably the first disc jockey, he put them on his programme, and we began to get inquiries from theatrical agents offering us dates.
Yes.
And one thing led to another, and that's how we started.
Yes. So really you were on the building site by day and in the theatre by night?
Yes, that's right.
So, in the best traditions of showbiz, of course, that's a slightly embroidered version of the story. It rather skips ahead a bit. So the recordings that they're talking about might well have been the first time the public could hear Bob and Alf on their gramophones, but it was not their first time on disc. And here, to tell the story a little bit later on, is Alf speaking to Mike Craig in 1986 about how that happened.
Mother had entered us in a Columbia talent competition.
The record company.
The record
Yeah.
was nationwide, and it was held in Barker's Stall in Kensington. And we went along and we sang a couple of songs, Singing in the Rain and Old Man River, and the prize was 50 Columbia records of those two songs that you'd sung, you see, given to you for nothing, and the chance of, recording for Columbia. So anyway, we won this thing, see, and they said, well, we've got Leighton and Johnson on our Columbia label.
Of course,
see,
yes.
so we
that's
can't have you on the Columbia label, but we think you could go on the Regal's Honophone,
That's the green one, wasn't it?
a subsidiary company. So they said, go along and see our recording manager, Mr. Alexander Kraut. He's from Newcastle.
Oh,
So we
That's
thought,
a good start.
We're in, you
yes,
see.
yes.
So we wait till I tell you. So we went along to see Mr. Kraut, and he said, I said, I've heard this test record thing that you did for Columbia, not bad. So he put a record on of two American people, that I can't even remember the name. I can remember the song that he put on. When I pretend I'm gay, I never feel that way. I'm only painting the clouds
With sunshine.
and the other one sang, when I pretend I'm gay, in thirds, up
Yes.
and down, all the way, like this.
Uninteresting.
Yeah. So he said, that's the way I want you to record. So Bob says, we don't sing like that, that's Chinese harmony. Says what we call corner boy harmony.
Corner boy harmony.
So he said, I don't care what you call it. He says, I can sell hundreds of thousands of those records on a Friday and Saturday with people that's got bags of fish and chips. So we said, well, if you want to sell them, sell this American record, because we're not going to sing like that for you. So we walked out the office, and we never got on Regal's on the phone record.
Dear.
So if we can just look at the previous slide, you can see These competitions were being done all over the country at the time, and then they reached the southeast and London, and it was in the old Barker's department store in Kensington. Novel variety concerts at 10:30am and 2:30pm, November and December 1929, and I think other artists were signed through this kind of series of talent contests, but Bob and Alf were not. So let's hear one side of that record, Singing in the Rain, a contemporary song at the time.
I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark all above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain. I'm singing, just singing in the rain. Why am I smiling and why do I sing? Why does December seem sunny as spring? Why do I get up each morning to start happy and hello with joy in my heart? Why is each new task a trifle to do? Because I am living a life full of you. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with the rain, I've a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain. I'm singing, just singing in the rain.
There you are, that was one of their first two recordings. The other side was Old Man River, which just shows there were some very strong songs around at that time because they were both very new songs, and both of them are still well known today. I don't really know much about the SWT series, so if anyone does know about that, please tell me. Special test record, not for sale, so that was one of the 50 copies they were given. And as we've heard from Alf's memories, Alf said they would have been signed to Regal Zonophone, and that just shows you can't trust what performers tell you about their history, because Regal Zonophone didn't exist at the time. Yes, so he's clearly misremembered it. Regal Zonophone didn't exist until 1932, when Columbia merged with the gramophone company to form EMI. Columbia had Regal, the gramophone company had Zonophone, so I think we can safely assume that Bob and Alf would have been on Regal had Columbia given them that contract. But we carry on. They would later end up recording for another label owned by Columbia, and one of them would make a guest appearance on a Columbia record, but not as himself. More on that later. So, cue a publicity stunt. The publisher Feldman's cooked up a ruse in which the press were told that Bob and Alf had been discovered while plastering. And they were told to come to the publisher's office the next day. There'd be Jack Hilton and a load of pressmen, and there were, as you can see, this is what the press release said on the back: plastering brothers cause furore with their voices. Press release: 2 young plasterers who were until this week engaged on a building estate at Kingston, where they had come with a firm of contractors from Sunderland, are expected to make history with their voices. They were discovered by Mr. Frank Rubens of Feldman's as he passed along the Kingston bypass, and he invited them to sing before Jack Hilton, the famous band leader. Several important review proprietors have made the young plasterers offers. The young men are Bob and Alf Pearson of Sunderland. Photo shows Jack Hilton listening to the plasterer vocalist Bob at piano and Alf Pearson. 31st of March 1930. So if we just look at the photo Again, in actual fact, it was someone who was related. I think Frank Rubens knew someone on the halls, as it were, who they met while working through on this building site which their father was working on. So it wasn't quite as the story would have it. They weren't quite discovered, while plastering. They'd already got their start. But hey, it's publicity ruse, and it obviously did the trick. So you can see Piccadilly Records. You ought to have these records by Bob and Alf Pearson, whose romantic discovery was reported in the Evening Chronicle, May 29th, and that's in a Newcastle newspaper. So they only made 3 records in all for Piccadilly. The publicity obviously helped. Piccadilly was a budget line for Metropole. They sold for 1 and 6, about a fiver in today's money. They recorded at Highbury Athenaeum in Islington, which was later used by ITV for their studios. And the Pearsons made, as I say, 3 records. They made 3 records for Piccadilly. They also appeared on Metropole itself as the Melody Boys, a record later reissued by Octocross. Here's one of those Piccadilly 78s, another song which was new at the time, again showing a lot of the songs from that era have lasted very well.
I saw a blind man, he was a kind man, helping a fellow along. One could not see, one could not walk, but they both were humming this song. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop your sighing. Be happy again, keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. I used to worry, I used to hurry, each time it started to rain. Now I see light, learn wrong from right, and you'll never hear me complain. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, you bring on the rain, so stop your sighing. Be happy again, keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, oh, you bring on the rain, so stop your sighing. Be happy again, keep on smiling, 'cause when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you.
When You're Smiling, Bob and Alf Pearson on Piccadilly, which has of course been sung by many people since then. And there you go, there you can see on the Metropole label the Melody Boys singing a song called Molly, which was released under their name on Piccadilly. The Melody Boys, a name used on other records, not by Bob and Alf Pearson, but this one is. So, will you continue on? So, the Pearson sang When You're Smiling on a very new medium called television. They were involved in the early days of television broadcasting for John Logie Baird at his studio in Long Acre, Covent Garden. And Alf later said the screen was about the size of a cigarette card. And also, there were very few viewers in those days, of course. It was still very experimental. He said, in those days, once you'd finished, you could quickly run round the camera and see the last few seconds on the camera screen. That's how it was in those days. So then, after a few stops on the Piccadilly line, it was over to Broadcast, a label owned by Vocalion. Bob and Alf made dozens of recordings for Broadcast in 1930 and 1931, initially on the smaller 8-inch series. In September 1930, their first Broadcast 78s were released. Aside from the ones under their own name, there were others uncredited, with just labelled vocal refrain. Yes, so the same month that Bob and Alf had their first records on Vocalion under their own name, there were others uncredited as vocal refrain for the Riverside Dance Band. That was just one of a number of pseudonyms for Harry Bidgood's bands. He had numerous studio bands with different names, the New York Nightbirds, the Manhattan Melody Makers, and none of them anywhere near to New York or the other side of the Atlantic. They were just studio bands, not the ones you'd see, in the nightclubs of the West End. One of these fictional outfits was Jack Phillips' Melodians. And here is a song from the revue Wonderbar, which was then playing at the Savoy Theatre. It's called Elizabeth. Broadcast Super 12 was a 10-inch series, which was said to play as long as a 12-inch record, hence the name. And I think they've got a great kind of, I think it's very tongue-in-cheek, this record, because it's lamenting this poor girl who's very distressed now that skirts have grown longer. Well, she only had to wait another 30 years for them to get back again. But here we are, Elizabeth.
Even missed and get. Now she's got to hide what was once her joy and pride. This fad of overdressing is depressing, distressing, and catching men grows harder. Their ardour's not so strong. My friend Elizabeth's tired of life and prays for death. How can she go wrong now that skirts are long?
light of poor Elizabeth. How can she go wrong now that skirts aren't so long? Well, there's a lesson for us there, referencing Mr. Getz. So a week later, the brothers were back in the studio with Harry Bidgood, recording 2 songs from What a Widow, a film starring Gloria Swanson, later of course to star in Sunset Boulevard, which is now lost. So we can get a sense of at least what the songs might have sounded like by listening to these covers. She plays a young woman whose elderly husband dies and leaves her $5 million. She goes to Paris, becomes part of the Continental set, and is pursued by a rich playboy and a lawyer. On the A side of this record from the film, here is Alf singing solo. Love Is Like a Song, Jack Phillips Melodians, with vocal refrain by Alf Pearson. I believe that in the film the songs were sung by Gloria Swanson. I'm not sure she had much of a recording career, so perhaps it's best the film is lost. Just kidding. So they did make a few solo vocals, but by and large Bob and Alf sang together. But on the other side of this record, again, vocal refrain, uncredited, another song from the same film, Say Oui, Cherie, and it's Bob singing. Take it away.
Next one is this.
only, say we, Sherry, you're one and only, I'll be, Sherry. Imagine just a little love nest for two, keeping our affair strictly entre nous. This hesitating to me, Sherry, is aggravating. Come on, say we, just think of all the love you're missing. You might as well give in and let me hear you say we, Sherry.
With Bob Pearson on vocal refrain from What a Widow, the Gloria Swanson film. Jack Phillips' melodians, who of course were Harry Bidgood. The Pearsons also sang with Ambrose's orchestra on his Saturday night broadcasts from the Mayfair Hotel with Elsie Carlisle and Sam Brown, but they didn't record with Bert. They had obviously started on making regular broadcasts by now. In fact, Bob and Alf's first broadcast featured a lady who I'm sure Keith is familiar with, Florrie Ford.
Who else?
So they were regulars on the wireless. But continuing with the music hall theme, by this time they had made their big screen debut, not in feature films, but in the Pathé newsreels shown in cinemas. You didn't just get news in those days, you also got all kinds of short clips of people performing or doing all sorts of things, and this is one great way in which lots of these performances have been preserved in the era when television wasn't being kept. The Pearsons were in 11 of these short films released from 1932 to 1938, and this is one of the first. It's an old-time medley of music hall songs.
As I stroll along the border along with an independent air, you can hear the girls declare, he must be a millionaire. You can hear them sigh, you wish to die, you can see them wink the other eye at the man who broke the bank at Monte Carlo. You are the honey, honeysuckle, I am the bee. I want to sip the honey sweet from those red lips you see. I love you dearly, dearly, and I want you to love me. You are the honey, honeysuckle, I am the bee. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer too. I'm half crazy, oh, for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage, I can't afford a carriage, but you look sweet on the seat of a bicycle made for two lovely black eyes. Oh, what a surprise, only for telling a man he was wrong. Two lovely black eyes. I saw the old homestead and faces I love. I saw England's valleys and dells. I listened with joy as I did when a boy. the sound of the old village bells. The log was burning brightly. 'Twas a night that should banish all sin, for the bells were ringing the old year out and the new year in.
So that was an old-time medley of music hall songs which they made for British Pathé, released on 24th November 1932, and we saw them singing Honeysuckle and the Bee, Daisy Bell, Two Lovely Black Eyes, and The Miner's Dream of Home. Bob and Alf performed music hall songs throughout their career, and they recorded several medleys of them. Not just medleys of music hall, they seemed to specialise in medleys. There were selections of English songs, Scottish songs, Irish songs, ballads, and hits of the day, many of them during that period of their career and later on. We'll hear more about that later. So by this time, they had moved to Imperial Records, a crystallate company. Although most of their recordings were issued as Bob and Alf Pearson, they still took part in a few sessions with dance bands. One of the top band leaders at the time, who was a proper band leader in the clubs, you know, whose name was widely known, unlike Harry Bidgood, was Jack Payne. And you can see this is the next disc. But by this time, as we can see, they were important enough to be credited on the disc, vocal chorus, Bob and Alf Pearson. So here we are in Imperial, Jack Payne and his band, while we danced at the Mardi Gras.
At the Mardi Gras was romance, what it seemed at the Mardi Gras was the love that we played, just a brief masquerade. Was it gone with the song that the orchestra played? With a sigh, with a glance at the moon above, was it just by chance we spoke of love? Or did you somehow feel that the wonder was real while we danced at the Mardi Gras?
while we danced at the Mardi Gras. Jack Payne and his band. That was take 2, and for collectors, if you're so inclined, great fun can be had with finding different pressings of these records with different takes. And perhaps it's just me, obviously that's probably why I'm here, but I love trying to spot the differences between these different takes. You can be there for, well, literally hours, but there are often these different takes with minor differences, and I don't know why. Maybe someone out there can tell me why there were different pressings of these tapes, because I don't know, but it's very interesting. There's also a pressing of that record with tape 3. The lyrics were by a young Johnny Mercer, who became very well known in Hollywood in later years as a songwriter. Crystal 8 abandoned the Imperial imprint in favour of Rex, which is where you could find Bob and Alf from 1933 onwards. Available for only a shilling, the records were sold at Marks and Spencer's. So, here's take 1 of Now We're Sweethearts Again, with take 2 also available if you want to look for it.
Oh, Bob, will you help me write this letter to my girl? Why, of course. What have you got written? Well, I've got this. You can tell me what you told me when I told you not to tell me. Write me what you wrote me when I wrote you not to write me. See me where you saw me when I told you not to see me. Now that we're sweethearts again. Now, put this. You can hold me like you held me when I told you not to hold me. Ring me where you rang me when I told you not to ring me. Sing me what you sang me when I told you not to sing me. Now that we're sweethearts again. I really do believe that you will live in clover, just you and she. Happy you'll be, like Adam and like Eve will turn, a new leaf over waiting you'll see. And you can take me where you took me when I told you not to take me. Break me like you broke me when you knew that you would break me. Shake me like you shook me when I told you not to shake me. Now that we're sweethearts again. I'm writing you again, it is my daily report. And to make it plain, I'll cut a long story short. Now that we're sweethearts again, now that we're sweethearts again, say one must take and one must give. They must decide on how one must live, just where to live. You know that two can live as cheap as one, providing one doesn't live. Like you teased me when I told you not to tease me. Squeeze me like you squeezed me when I told you not to squeeze me. Please me like you pleased me when I said you didn't please me. Now that we're sweethearts again, you can leave me where you led me when I told you not to leave me. Read me like you read me when you said that you could read me. Feed me like you fed me when I told you not to feed me. Now that we're sweethearts again. Like you knew me when I said you couldn't know me. Throw me where you threw me when I told you not to throw me. Even Romeo me like you used to Romeo me. Now that we're sweethearts, now that we're sweethearts, now that we're sweethearts again.
Bob and Alf Pearson, vocal duet on Rex, Now We're Sweethearts Again. And you may have observed that Bob the pianist usually was just giving a piano backing on their records, and that one you could hear an orchestra. It's not credited and it's not known for sure, but the studio director on Rex was Jay Wilbur, who, like Harry Bidgood, was one of the top studio directors of the time, who went under a number of pseudonyms. But you wouldn't have known his name from broadcasts, nightclubs and hotels and the like, but nevertheless top-notch musicians. Whilst on Rex, Bob and Alf made some anonymous appearances on another Crystal 8 label, Eclipse. This one was only 6p, less than £2 in today's money, and it was sold at Woolworths. I hope people here remember them. The brothers are singing an uncredited vocal refrain, so back to anonymity, for the exotic sounding Don Porto's novelty accordion band. I mean, one might think of all sorts of countries that Don Porto might have originated from, but in fact it's Harry Bidgood again. And here is one of the best known hit songs of the period, Isle of Capri.
'Twas on the Isle of Capri that I found her, 'neath the shade of an old walnut tree. On the Isle of Capri that I found her, beneath the shade of an old walnut tree. Oh, I can still see the flowers blooming round her, where we met on the Isle of Capri. She was as sweet as a rose at the dawning, but somehow fate hadn't meant her for me. And though I sailed with the tide in the morning, still my heart's on the Isle of Capri. Summertime was nearly over, blue Italian sky above. I said, lady, I'm a rover, and you spared a sweet word of love. She whispered softly, it's best not to linger, and then as I kissed her hand I could see she wore a plain golden ring on her finger. 'Twas goodbye on the Isle of Capri.
Take 1 of 2 of Isle of Capri, and as we can see, in case you didn't know, it's a little bit smaller than the standard 10-inch discs. One of the Eclipse records available at Woolworths. I think Woolworths sadly disappeared, but maybe if they kept up with things like that, they may not have done, who knows.
Don't forget Embassy.
Yes, quite. So late in Bill's right, many years later, Woolworths went back to releasing music by stocking the Embassy records. That was many years to come. Bob and Alf also recorded with Harry Bidgood under his most famous guise, Primo Scala. Again, of course, no one exotic, just plain old Harry Bidgood's accordion band. In 1935, Bob and Alf's regular releases came to an end. They made some recordings with the famous Blackpool organist Reginald Dixon, but they were largely absent from the studios. This was apart from a trip Bob made to Bin's department store in Sunderland with his little sister Dorothy. Bob played piano for her on several renditions of popular songs of the day from around 1936, and of course back then and into the 60s there were all sorts of recording booths or this was a music department where anyone could just go in, pay some money, and cut a little record instantly of whatever they wanted. As you'll hear, the sound quality isn't great. This was given to me by the Pearson family, but still, it's a unique memento. So we're first going to hear Dorothy, the younger sister, and she is singing with Bob on piano. And there's the envelope that came in.
Animal crackers in my food, monkeys and rabbits loose and loose. God don't keep what I have done. So animals one by one, in every ball of two by four. Lions, tigers, walking loose. I'm little just right to run too slow. Animal crackers in my food. When I get hold of the big bad one, they want to do fly. Then I bite him and I love to him right down. When they're inside me, where it's dark, I go around like an old ark. I do my tongue just like a fish, with animal crackers in
So that's Dorothy singing Animal Crackers in My Soup. She was, I think she was in her teens then, so she was appropriately covering a song by another young juvenile, Shirley Temple, who did not have a recording contract. And Dorothy, with their other sister Emily, formed a musical double act, but it didn't last. At the same time that they did those, Bob, who was there, recorded a song which he featured in his act with his brother. I believe it was made famous by Peter Dawson. We're going to hear him playing Phil the Fluter's Ball.
Have you heard of the flute and the pan the times are going hard with him, in fact the man was drunk, so he sent an invitation to his neighbour's man. I was like the company that evening at the bar, but when night came on, he was careful to suggest to them to find a hat that was convenient to the door. The more they put in, wherever he requested them, the better would the music be, the bagger in the floor, with the tweaks of the flute and the twiddle of the fiddle, hopping in the middle like a heaven on a griddle, up and hands around, crossing to the wall, having the gaiety in the fluter's ball, with the tweaks of the flute and the twiddle of the fiddle, hopping in the middle like a heaven on a griddle, up down hands around, crossing to the wall, having the gaiety at the fluter's ball.
Yeah, you can hear him kind of making some observation at the end there. So there's a few of those. It's mostly Dorothy singing contemporary songs of the time, Up the Wooden Hill to Bedfordshire, Animal Crackers in My Soup, and Poor Little Angeline. That was the only one that Bob did. In March 1937, well, just to go back on those, as you can hear, not very good quality, but you know, they were instant. People could have the record, you know, as soon as they wanted, essentially. And on the other side, what we heard last month when Howard did his advertising discs evening, on the other side, it's this advertising message may be of interest to you, and it's the person I thought was Bobby Scott Comber, I believe, selling Duresque cigarettes, make mine a minor. Make of that what you will. So that's voice record. That was the voice records they made at Bin's department store in Sunderland. In March 1937, Decca took over Rex, and it was this incarnation of the label for whom Bob and Alf made their last pre-war recordings. They had already recorded with Jay Wilbur, of course, on Imperial earlier. He was the studio director for Rex. This was to be their final recording before the outbreak of the Second World War. It was issued in time for Christmas 1938.
mountain and the gal beneath the moon, very fair to see. There's a tear on the face of the man in the moon. She don't care for me. Oh, I wrote her a letter and my letter let her know. Loved her faithfully. But I got her reply, just a card saying no. It could never be. To the first grade I could find some candy and a ring. Made the dirt gal change her mind. That changes everything. There's a moon on the mountain and the gal beneath the moon, waiting patiently. There's a smile on the face of the man up in the moon, and she will marry me.
Not just a dance band record, it was an M&S dance band record. I couldn't resist that one. There's a Moon on the Mountain, Jay Wilbur and his band, studio outfit, vocal chorus, again credited by Bob and Alf Pearson. So that takes us up to the Second World War. During the war, they formed a concert troupe with ENSA, which has been nicknamed Every Night Something Awful. It was, in fact, the Entertainment National Service Association, which all the big names worked with. They performed at army bases, singing for troops across Europe and Africa. But they were not on record. I think many major names were not on record during this period, perhaps shortage of shellac, amongst other reasons. So there was no Bob and Alf Pearson on record for several years. Following the E-Day in 1945, their BBC broadcasting career continued though. They'd worked with the comedian Ted Ray in Variety, and he requested them for his new BBC radio series, Raise a Laugh. It began on Monday, 4th of April 1949 at 7:30 p.m. and it was broadcast weekly on the Home Service, now Radio 4, as well as being repeated on the Light programme, which has become Radio 2. It was later moved to Tuesday and then Thursday nights. Millions listened weekly. It was the golden age of radio, as I'm sure you don't need me to tell you. And Bob and Alf had a regular musical spot. On the 25th of October show, they sang a number they had first recorded back in 1931, and which they had recently cut again. Following the start of Raise a Laugh, they had finally been signed to a branch of Columbia, Parlophone, for whom they would make their last recordings, and this is over 10 years after their last appearance on disc. So this was one of their earliest records after that, and it was a number by a prolific American songwriting team, but it nevertheless fits in well with the British variety tradition. The Dance of the Seven Veils was inspired by a New Testament story and performed by Salome. Here's Bob and Alf Pearson, Seven Veils.
Once the king of Hokum called his cavaliers and said, "You dogs, I haven't had a thrill in 20 years. What about it? What about it?" And the boys said, "Wait." Far and wide they sought for what would thrill their weary king. At last they rode back home and cried, "We have the very thing. It's a dancer, what a dancer." And the king said, "Great." They called her Seven Veils, her magic never fails. She's caused 1,000 scandals, and we're not telling fairy tales. Far over hills and dales, she's wrecked 1,000 veils. Okay, is what the king said. Bring on your 7 veils. She began to twist and turn. The king just yawned and looked real stern. Off came a little veil, 1. Then she trembled once or twice. The king said, boys, I'm cold as ice. Off came another veil, 2. She shook like bay leaves in a storm. The king cried, gosh, I'm getting warm. Off came another veil, 3. Then she jibed just like a cat. The king said, Mama, buy me that. Off came another veil, 4. She danced around and how she tripped. The king said, hope the next one's ripped. Off came another veil, 5. Then she shook from tops to ears. The king put out 3 chandeliers. Off came another veil, 6. Then came a terrible din. Just as she reached for the 7th veil, the queen came walking in. Oh, 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 that 7th veil. That dancer went to jail, and that king just goes on dreaming. He dreams of the 7th.
Seven Veils, the number they first put on record for broadcast in 1931. On Raise a Laugh, they also performed theme medleys of older songs, and from November 1949, here's an example of that, including Walking My Baby Back Home, which they recorded twice during their career. So here we have, from 1st November 1949.
Bring you melody from out of the sky, my brother and I.
Hello everyone, this is Bob and Alf Pearson. Our melodies this week tell the story of the different methods of transport used by courting couples. Before there were any vehicles at all, they had, of course, to walk. Gee, it's great after being out late, walking my baby back home. Arm in arm over meadow and farm, walking my baby back home. We go along harmonizing a song, or I'm reciting just a little poem. The owls go by, they give me the eye, walking my baby back home. Then came the horse and buggy, clickety-clack, clickety-clack. Just see them going to the fair. John and Mary jogging along behind the old gray mare. Clickety-clack, clickety-clack, God bless them, what a happy pair. John and Mary jogging along behind the old gray mare. The bicycle on a bike built for 2. I'll go riding with you, we'll go rolly-o, rolling along. It's the grandest machine, it's the best ever seen. Just go rolly-o, rolling along. Our hearts will go riding in rhythm, the breeze singing love's sweetest song. Over valley and hill there is no greater thrill than rolly-o, rolling, rolly-o, rolling, rolly-o, rolling along. Then came the motor car. That's when he'd have to get under, get out and get under, to fix his little machine. He was just dying to cuddle his queen, but every minute When he'd begin it, he'd have to get under, get out and get under, to fix up his automobile. Next, an aeroplane. Me and Jane in a plane, soaring up to the clouds. Me and Jane in a plane, far away from the crowds. In my two-seater, what could be sweeter? We'll have St. Peter step inside and bless the bride. I'll be keeping my eye on the man in the moon. He's a dangerous guy when he starts to spoon. My kisses I'll shower, 1,000,000 an hour. No traffic up will ever stop me and Jane in a plane. But whichever method was used, when they got to the old front porch, it was always the same. For he said, "Good night, sweetheart, all my prayers are for you. Good night, sweetheart, angels will watch o'er you. Dreams enfold you, in them dear I'll hold you. Good night, sweetheart, good night."
So that's their transport medley from Tuesday, 1st of November 1949, in which you heard "Walking My Baby Back Home," "Jogging Along Behind the Old Grey Mare," "Rollio Rolling Along," the bicycle song, "He'd Have to Get Under," "Me and Jane in a Plane," and "Good Night, Sweetheart," a selection of transport theme songs through the years. So the opening music you heard, and at the end of that little musical segment they did, was what became their theme song, called "My Brother and I." It was an adaptation of a 1928 song called "Just Like a Melody Out of the Sky," composed by Walter Donaldson. So if you track that song down, you'll find it is the same as "My Brother and I." Aside from their musical interludes, the other significant contribution to Raise a Laugh Bob and Alf made was voicing a couple of the well-known characters who appeared in the sketches. And from the following week's show, here is one of them.
George.
Yes, Conscience?
You're wasting your time. What about Isa Nolden? Find out where she lives. Knock at that door.
Thank you, Conscience. You're quite right. I will.
Hello,
Why, it's a little girl. What's your name?
Jennifer.
Oh, that's a nice name. Is your mummy in?
Yes, but you can't see her now.
Why not?
She's sitting on the settee studying geography.
Studying geography.
Yes, she's learning all about Russia.
How?
Well, she's got her arm round the Polish border.
Where? Oh, dear. Ah, this is no good. I'll try in this cafe, the Swinging Sock.
So there you go. That was the little girl Jennifer was played by Bob Pearson and would regularly crop up in those shows. More of her shortly. The other well-known character that Bob and Alf contributed, Bob I think, was Mrs. Hoskins. It sounds like Bob to me anyway, with Ted Ray as her friend Ivy.
Oh, Conscience, I've looked all over this old house, but I haven't found a clue.
Well, what about that door over there? That's one room you haven't looked in.
Good idea. I'll go in.
Oh, it was terrible, Ivy. It was agony. I've never known such a thing in all my life.
What happened, Mrs. Hoskin?
I was in bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and my legs were all black.
Hey, what did you do, Mrs. Hoskin?
I got your cousin Charlie up.
Oh, he's no good. I've been out with him. What did you do then, Mrs. Hoskin?
Well, Ivy, I got your Aunt Ada up.
What did she do?
She put the kettle on and made a cup of tea.
Oh.
Did that shift it? No. I was going through it, Ivy. So I got Dad up.
Oh, Dad, what did he do, Mrs. Austin?
He took one look at me black legs, and then he sent for Dr. Hardcastle.
Young Dr. Hardcastle. He's lovely, Mrs. Austin. He's lovely.
I know. He came right away, Ivy.
Yes.
And my legs were still black. Oh, and then he did it.
What did he do, Mrs. Austin?
He took me stockings off and we all went back to bed.
Good gracious me. Well, what was all that about? What's all that nonsense about?
Well, that is sadly the only surviving example of that series of sketches which gave rise to catchphrases like "It were agony, Ivy," and voiced by Bob, and "He's lovely, Mrs. Hoskins, he's lovely," voiced by Ted. In fact, only about 10 episodes featuring Bob and Alf Pearson survive, and sadly that's the only one in which we hear Ivy and Mrs. Hoskins. Although the golden age of the dance bands was over by then, Jennifer supplied a vocal to a recording by Phil Morrow's Music. I feel sure that Phil Morrow is a pseudonym, though I don't know who for, because he seems to not exist outside of a couple of these Columbia records. The chorus group are the Bows and the Bells, who were another fixture of Razor Laugh. They're thought to be the keynotes under another name, and so, for the only time in their careers, one of the brothers of Bob and Alf was heard on a Columbia disc issued to the public. The label says, "With Jennifer," but we know who that is.
Departure and they quickly flew away. Flew over Britain, Parliament was sitting and they listened in as they swept by. Stayed by the ground, they couldn't stop around before the hot air blew them high.
and the Bows and the Bells, in reality Bob Pearson and the Keynotes, we think. Incidentally, the music for that, top 20 hit on the sheet music charts, was by Alf Pearson, which was actually Eric Spear, who later wrote the theme music for Coronation Street. The Pearsons' last appearance on Raise a Laugh was in July 1951, after which the show became more of a sitcom than a variety review, as in the year when Bob and Alf were on the show, you've heard the Keynotes do a song, Ted Ray and his wife Kitty, fictional wife, have a bit of an argument, Bob and Alf, Ted going on one of these missions in which he would come across, Jennifer and Crystal Jollybottom, who you may have recognised the face of Peter Sellers in one of those photos. And various, little sketches like that, but then it became more about Ted and Kitty, and the series ran for until the early 60s, in fact, Raise a Laugh. But Bob and Alf left July 1951. The brothers dabbled in composing as well. One of those songs was recorded by several artists, including the 5 Smith brothers. Sadly, we don't have time to play it, but using a pseudonym, Vernon, Bob Vernon, being Alf's middle name, it was recorded by the 5 Smith brothers, and Marie Benson and Johnny Brandon duetting, and Benny Lee and the Stargazers. But continuing with their record career, hit medleys were a common feature of the shellac era. It provided lots of value for money, and in the age before the LPs, it meant that an artist could fit a number of songs on one side, and they're a unique form of entertainment which we've sadly lost, I think, because the way that they construct the medley, I think, is an art in itself. So they were a regular part of the Pearson 78s on Parlophone, the Bob and Alf medleys. First of all, it was big bits of big hits, hits of the day, and then family favourites, perhaps inspired by the BBC Light programme Request Show of that name, which later became Two-Way Family Favourites. This is part 1 of the first in the series, with 3 popular hits of the day.
Oh, my Liberty Bell, my pretty little bell, I love nobody but you. There's pretty girls in Singapore and the Philippines, all along Killarney shore, oh, the fair Colleens. There's sweet Fifi from gay Paris and Wilhelmina too. But Belle, Belle, my Liberty Bell, I'm still in love with you. I march, march, march the whole world over. I sail, sail, sail the ocean blue. They make my blinking heart a rover, but it's never, hardly ever away from you. Of all the girls in Singapore and the Philippines, you're the girl that I adore, kiss in all my dreams. I'll hold you soon beneath the moon, till then, sweetheart, be true. 'Cause Belle, Belle, my Liberty Bell, I'm still in love with you. Because of you, there's a song in my heart. Because of you, my romance had its start. Because of you, the sun will shine, the moon and stars will say you're mine forever and never to part. I only live for your love and your kiss. It's paradise to be near you like this. Because of you, my life is now worthwhile, and I can smile because of you. I love the sunshine of your smile. I love the laughter in your eyes. In every dream I dream of you. You are the one I idolize. Nobody thrills me like you do. you turn the grey skies into blue. For you always make my life worthwhile with the sunshine of your smile, with the sunshine of your smile.
Part 1 of the first in the family favourite series, Bell, Bell, My Liberty Bell, Because of You, and I Love the Sunshine of Your Smile. Bob and Alf Pearson on parlophone, with orchestra conducted by Philip Green, whose film work is extensive. Alas, it was 70 years ago this year that the recording career of Bob and Alf Pearson came to an end. Their last release was a Christmas medley, which I hope to play at a more appropriate time of year, if the powers that be will let me. Instead, I'm going to play their penultimate release. It appears to have been a 78, timed for the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II. Well, if you wait 70 years, then you get another one. On one side, in a golden coach, a very big hit from the time. Another, a slightly less big hit, but a hit nonetheless from the time, Celebration Rag, made the sheet music charts. Bob and Alf Pearson, again conducted by Philip Green.
Everybody's doing it, come and see him doing it, the celebration rag. Steeple bells are ringing it, everybody singing it, the celebration rag. Got a little catchy beat, makes you dance along the street, we know it's in the bag. And we got to drop for something just to keep the party bumping when we do the celebration rag. Yes, we got to drop for something just to keep the party bumping when we do the celebration rag. So come on everyone, we're gonna have some fun. Today's the day we waited for. We'll have a glass of wine, we'll have a happy time like we never had before. We're gonna let it go and let the neighbors know the party's in the bag. With a happy song we'll keep them up the whole night long when we do the celebration. Do the celebration rag. Oh, everybody's doing it, come and see him doing it, the celebration rag. Steeple bells are ringing it, everybody's singing it, the celebration rag. Got a little catchy beat, makes you dance along the street, we know it's in the bag. And we got to drop for something just to keep the party bumping when we do the celebration rag. Yes, we got to drop for something just to keep the party bumping when we do the celebration rag. Come and see him doing it, the celebration rag. Steeple bells are ringing it, everybody singing it, the celebration rag. Got a little catchy beat, makes you dance along the street, we know it's in the bag. And we got to drop for something just to keep the party bumping when we do the celebration rag. Yes, we got to drop for something just to keep the party bumping when we do the celebration rag. Right throughout the nation there'll be joy and jubilation when you do the celebration rag.
The celebration rag, and I think without any reference to the Queen or the royal family, I think we all know what they were celebrating at the time. So you've got a nice coronation disc there within a golden coach on one side and celebration rag on the other. So that was one of their last records, the Parlophone, where one of the young assistant producers was a chap called George Martin, who later made Parlophone become quite a bit better known. I believe he regarded Parlophone as the poor relation in his early days. But nonetheless, Bob and Alf's last records were on that label. So, despite the end of their recording career, they continued performing on radio, in variety, and on television. You can see a bill from 1954 here, Winter Gardens in Bournemouth, Bob and Alf Pearson, John Pertwee, Billy Hugh Scott, Bill Maynard, the Coronets, and at the bottom, Al McCogan. Book now, Harold Fielding's Music for the Millions. So this was the kind of summer season they continued doing. In the 1970s, they were amongst the stars of Those Golden Years of Music Hall, a variety show at Eastbourne. It had a varying cast, including Elsie and Doris Waters, fellow Sunderland performer Nat Jackley, Walter Landauer of Landauer, and I'm not going to try to pronounce his surname, but he's a pianist. Leslie Cerrone and Lester Ferguson. It did 5 seasons in Eastbourne. It also toured at the end of each season, reaching South Africa, Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, New Zealand, and Canada. One of their last appearances together was in their hometown of Sunderland for the BBC One series Halls of Fame, in which Roy Hudd, a fellow water rat, hosted a variety bill from a historic theatre every week. I think it only ran for 1 series. In this clip, first broadcast on 18th of December 1984, they sing The Baby Show, which was the other side of Seven Veils, if I remember correctly, a Parvo recording from 1949. So here we are, let's see Roy Hudd introduce them at the Sunderland Empire in 1984.
Now first, here's a little tester for you. Now, they're a double act. They were born in Sunderland and they made their first appearance on this stage in 1930 as Sunderland's Sunny Sons. Now, since then, they've been back here, dozens and dozens of times. They made over 200 records, and unbelievably, they did more than 2,000 radio shows. And in one of them, Ted Ray's Raise a Laugh, one of them created an unforgettable character called Jennifer. Now, you haven't got them yet, blimey, everybody here has. Bob and Alf Pearson.
Seen the Lord Mayor show, the motor show, the flower show, but there's one thing I'd like to know. Have you ever seen a baby show? I saw one not long ago. It filled me with delight, and if you've been there, I know you'd love each tiny mite. Hear them a-hollering, hear them a-hollering at the baby show. Lots of chubby ones, lots of grubby ones laid out in a row. We had babies from the Isle of Wight. We had babies that were black and white, small ones, tall ones. What a funny sight, all singing in the meeny miny mo. Mauds and Lillians, Jack and Gillians, sane and Cillian, plain and frillian, hot and Chileans. There were millions at the baby show. We had babies, came from every town. We had babies, some of great renown. Meek ones, weak ones, bobbing up and down, all singing in the meeny miny mo. They were clean and scruffians, lean and tuffians, quiet and ruffian, couldn't get enoughian, gone into the huffians, little bare buffians at the baby show. They were all at the baby, all at the baby show. Everyone of note was there, the old Lord Mayor with his lady fair, and everyone had done their share. Some of them had even sent a pair. Parson Jones was in the chair, and after he said grace, he picked a baby up from there and kissed its jammy face. Hear them a-hollering at the baby show. Lots of dimply ones, lots of pimply ones laid out in a row. We had babies came from Huddersfield. We had babies came from Chesterfield, Glasgow, Cardiff, some from Macclesfield, all singing in the meeny miny mo. Fred and Nelly, stiff and jellians, quiet and yellians, sick and wellians, Cohens and Kellians, little fat bellians at the baby show. We had babies wrapped up in a shawl. We had babies with no clothes at all, flouncing, bouncing, playing with a rubber ball, all singing Romeo and Juliet, Babs and Betty, blonde and brunette, quiet and fretty, mother's little pettians, dry and wettians at the baby show, the baby show, the baby show.
duo from the series Halls of Fame, the episode in the Sunderland Empire, one of the great old Empire theatres from the great days of theatre, music hall variety. Their final appearance together, I believe, was the following year on Harry Seacombe's Highway series, an episode in Carlisle in which they sang a wartime medley. Bob sadly died in Sunderland, aged 78, on 30th of December 1985. Alf, of course, didn't continue recording or working as a solo performer, as he probably felt it was best to leave the act as it was. He made a cameo appearance in the pilot of You Rang the Lord as a call boy, rather appropriately. And he continued to be active with the Granddaughter Order of Water Rats, which Bob had also been involved in. Alf was made King Rat in 1997. He'd first become active with them in 1947. In 2001, the first CD compilation of the Pearsons' recordings was released, entitled My Brother and I, recorded in 2001, released 2002. Entitled My Brother and I, it was put together by fellow Water Rat and skiffle musician Chas McDevitt. At the age of 91, Alf could be heard linking the tracks. In his late 90s, he moved into Brinsworth House, the Twickenham retirement home for showbiz professionals. And there, in 2010, he celebrated his 100th birthday with a party held for him. And it was there, around that time, that Alf became the only centenarian that I've ever met. I met him briefly through a friend who knew people at Brinsworth House, which was quite remarkable. In July 2012, Alf died at the age of 102. The CD ended with a recording of a song introduced by Gracie Fields, Happy Ending, cue Alf sign off.
Well, that brings our recordings of the 30s, 40s and 50s to a happy ending, and I hope you liked it. Thanks for listening.
There we are, that was the story of Bob and Alf Pearson. Any questions, feel free.
Did either of them marry?
Bob married a lady called Vera, Alf did not marry. Because I believe, according to Alf, Vera didn't want there to be another girl involved, distracting from the act.
Right.
So she wouldn't have it. Formidable lady.
Well, thank you very much, Theo. We've learned even more about these guys. That was fascinating. Thank you. Another couple that spread over an extremely long period, which is admirable, really. It's just astonishing, these guys. Terrific. What a way you put it together. That was excellent. Working the slides was a joy, honest. Fantastic. Well done. Well, that's it. Thank you very much.
I'd just like to quickly thank Keith here for doing the slides so admirably, and Bill Dubman, and Ian's providing great supervision. David Hornby as well out there, whose records I am so graciously looking after. So thank you to everyone who's helped me with that.
Excellent. Thank you.